Tipping. That's what we're talking about today. Man, listen, how many situations have we found ourselves in where our server comes to us and they present us with not the checkbook, not the book, the paper, uh, the paper bill. They present us with the iPad, and when they hand us the iPad, it already has 25% tip selected. So they're being suggestive with you. They're saying, hey, hey, here we go right here. I've already selected it for you. I want you to choose the right one. How many times have we found ourselves in that situation? Or how many times have we found ourselves having to really consider where we're going? Because we know all in all that we're going to have to consider that 20% tip, that 18% tip, that 25% tip. How many times have we had to sit up here and choose? Is it going to be Cheesecake Factory? Is it going to be the hibachi? Is it going to be Ruth Chris? Is it going to be the Chop House? How many times do we find ourselves in these situations where we're really not at liberty to really choose how exactly we're going to tip? But the people who are with us, they'll say, hey, hold on. Listen, I know how good of a person he is based upon the people that are serving him and how he treats the people that are serving him. So I know if he's a bad tipper, I don't want nothing to do with him. So today we're talking about two millionaire bros, the finance bros here, and they're going to be talking to us about their opinion on like this tip phenomenon that's happening out here, right? And so without further ado, I'm going to bring up a brother to the channel, Mr. The Intentional Millionaire, to have this conversation with us.
What is going on, Sim? How is it going?
Man, salute, Tim. How many times have you found yourselves on the other side of the iPad, man? And they say, here you go, man, here you go. And they already have it selected for you, right? They didn't want you to choose the lower option. They want you to choose the higher one, man. Come on.
Well, I say this before we get started, where's my tip? But no, yeah, that's a frustrating thing because you could be tipping for a lack of service, unapproved service. You don't know what you're going to even be getting. So that's an interesting one. But yeah, I have experienced that. Definitely, being, going to different restaurants at this point, because it's not regulated, you don't know what you're going to get nowadays anymore. Some places, even you think of like a Chipotle, you go in line and when you ring yourself up, they asking for a tip, but they didn't do anything but just put what you request in the in a bowl, in a bun,
how you
in a
ordered it.
burrito.
It's not like they were heavy-handed and they did like 2 additional scoops on top of what they're supposed to do. They're giving you exactly how you wanted it, right?
Right. So this is a very good conversation, very good topic, but this is definitely going to be interesting.
Man, so look, the next finance bro we have coming up, he's a brother to the channel, Mr. Perry Unlikely. Perry, what you say, man? I mean, how many times have you had to tip someone, although they gave you bad service? How many times have you had to give them a tip just for GP, man? Just for principle, just general purposes? Oh, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
All right, my bad. So, yeah, man, the option to do that comes up quite frequent, right? Now, there's definitely a fatigue of that, though, because it's just getting to be ridiculous, utterly ridiculous, for not doing much at all. I mean, I would not be surprised if next year we see when you go in, you don't really go in to pay for gas anymore, right? But when you get a drink at the gas station, they ask you, do you want to tip them? I won't be surprised if you see that sooner or later. It's just getting out of hand, right?
Perry, I saw that this week, man. I saw that this week. So, you have like I don't know what y'all have down there. I haven't been to Buc-ee's, but Buc-ee's is like this humongous gas station.
I went to Bucky's a couple, 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Does Quick Trip? I know y'all have Quick Trip in Georgia. Does Quick Trip have the self scan? Yeah.
No, not self scan. I think I do see him at racetracks sometimes, though. Some of the busier racetracks we have similar to Quick Trip.
Now,
I do see the self ones.
so I saw a video this week, guys, where self checkout at a gas station, and they literally, so here you are, you grab your own item, you scan it, and then they ask you, do you want to leave a tip? And they did absolutely nothing. You literally grabbed your own item. The only thing that they did was probably just stock the shelf, you know. Beyond that, maybe you're tipping them because the place is clean or something along those lines. What's to say about this whole idea of just tipping in general? Now, with you guys having been travelers, what is you all's experience with being overseas, and what do they think about this whole idea of tipping? I'll go with you, Tim, first.
Well, I know some countries they don't they take tipping as being offensive because that's not part of their culture. Tipping they prefer for you not to tip. They just prefer for you to pay for the goods and service that they provided, and then you continue to keep it moving. So I think it's an interesting concept because the thing is, it's like anything. I think what a lot of companies have done, they leverage the pre-COVID. I'm sorry, post-COVID. They leveraged the post-COVID charges, and they kept some of those things going because they figure out it was a way that they can, you know, make extra money when the consumer not paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, over here, so here in the Durham area, I remember a place that I went to. I took a young lady to, and I go there, we go to get our food, and it was like a higher end pizza spot. And they wanted $20. It was like a $20 fair pay fee that was on the bill, in addition to me still having to tip the 20% over and above that 20% fair compensation fee that they were charging. It was supposed to be an effort to make sure that these guys are being paid a livable wage, you know, that are working in the restaurant industry. Maybe because I don't know if they were designated as essential workers during the time, but can mean it's wild. So in essence, we're paying an additional 38% over and above what we're already paying for the meal, right? And now I remember someone that I know whose father owned a restaurant actually mentioned to me that you're really only supposed to tip the subtotal amount. But a lot of these places, they trick us into paying a tip on their taxes as well, right? So you imagine you paying taxes and then you putting a tip over and above the taxes that you already being charged. That's like super wild to me. What's your experience with that, Perry? What have you experienced in other places outside of America in reference to this whole tipping phenomenon?
Yeah, so I've been to Europe a couple times, and my experience has been that for the most part, they did not really expect a tip, and I think my wife and I tipped anyway, at some places, but we could tell it's definitely, and some of them they let you know it wasn't expected. So, in general, it seems like in Europe, they just they work for a livable wage basically, or whatever the case. And then as far as tips, they just don't expect it. So I think it's a lot of it's more of a cultural thing, right? But no doubt that like you mentioned, Sim, some of that with the pandemic, it's like they didn't want to take some of that stuff off. To me, it's almost getting to the point where it's almost like you had all this office. People aren't in offices as much as they used to be, right? So it almost be like you pay for an office, but now you no longer use it, but we're going to charge you anyway. It's like at some point, um, there has to be, kind of a reprieve from some of this, and it's getting out of hand to the point where, it even alters to a degree. Just some of the decisions I make. Maybe not solely tipping, but you think about those certain places where it's self checkout, not where self checkout's an option, but there's someone at the register, but places where literally it's almost nobody at the register and it's all self checkout. I won't even go to those places anymore. I mean, if I can't even literally get help with something, like I don't even go anymore. I would rather pay more and go somewhere else, just because it's out of control. So it's like you got you've got like you got 10 registers, no one's at. You got 2 self checkout, and you got a line of 20 people, and no one's going to come over here to reduce this down. I won't even fool with the place. I'd rather pay double and be in and out, and because that shows me people don't care about my time. So it's starting to alter the way that places I even go, and things things I do.
What are you gonna say, Tim?
No, I was just laughing.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was in Walmart last Friday. So my son came in town last Friday. I was in Walmart last Friday and I'm walking through. So, when you walk into Walmart, you come in. Well, this specific Walmart only has one set of doors. So you come in like on the produce side is to your left,
Mm-hmm.
and the registers are to your right. But we were going to the automotive section, so we had to kind of walk in and then pass all the registers. And I'm looking and I see probably about 6 or 7 registers that are open. And then I had to think to myself for a second. And I said, oh, hold up. Oh, okay. It's now Thanksgiving and the holiday season. Now Walmart wants to have all the registers open. But in the same vein, Walmart now, from what I hear around the country, is migrating away from the self-checkout because they're having so much theft. They have people who might take a sticker from one item and put it on another item, and then they scan it over there, you scan, and then they walk out. And I mean, even the you scan setup, like you were saying, Tim, is just wild. Or Perry, like the whole idea that you're now having to work from end to end for your item. You go find it by yourself, you bring it over by yourself, you scan it out by yourself, and then the company might sit up here or they might have somebody at the door, and it's almost impossible for them to be able to really look down your list, especially if you have a bunch of items, and see, hey, this person has 20 items. Let me make sure I count 20 items in the cart. And this is something that I also heard as it pertains to the whole idea of them even stopping you at the door. From what I heard before is that only the private membership places like a BJ's, Costco, or Sam's Club, those are the only places that I had heard where they can stop you and keep you from leaving prior to your to really checking off your receipt. So Perry, what's your take? You down there in Georgia, man, and I hear in Georgia some wild stories about how like tipping is almost mandatory. There's no opportunity for you to have any discretion. It's just something that you have to have. You have to provide to your service providers automatically without even having to consider what you want to do compared to what they want.
Yeah. So put it this way, I'm not seeing anywhere where it's like, hey, you absolutely have to. Well, I have, but part of it's been how it's always been. Where there used to be like, I think it used to be like if there's 8 people or more or something like that, there's going to be a gratuity on top of it or whatever, or a certain number. What I am seeing is now it's like I'm seeing a lot of it where and they're all moving to the kiosk. I can flip around to you, right? Just flip it around. It's already preset. And I noticed the preset originally when I started seeing those pop up might have been, I think it was like, man, I was noticing 12% here, right? And then 15 and 18. Now the presets worked its way up where the bottom is like 22%, like 25, and then 30%, excuse me. So it's just getting higher and higher. And then what I've also noticed is I am seeing restaurants. I'm not seeing it a lot. But I'm seeing it on the rise. I'm seeing where that number of people that it takes before they'll put that, like it used to be like 8 people or whatever, right? I'm starting to see that gratuity that number slipped down. I think I went one place where it's like, oh, tips already included. You know, it was 4 people or higher. I'm like, what? So it is getting crazy, and to me, it's getting out of hand.
Yeah, man. What about you, Tim? You up there in the VA area? So is your area more blue collar? Is it more so? Is it like I know there's a significant amount of colleges up there, at least NSU and Hampton.
It's a mixed bag. It's some of everything. You got a lot of blue collar. You have a lot of shipyards. You have a base, military base. Uh, it's a good access point to get to the Carolinas, Myrtle Beach, stuff like that, but also get up to the Northern Virginia, Maryland, DC, those areas. So it's a mixed bag. The thing is, here in this area, you experiencing some of everything that we're talking about as it relates to tips. You get in some places where it's included inside of the total bill. You get in some places where they don't provide no real service, but they still ask you, do you want a tip? And then you get in where you get your receipt and they give you recommendations for tips at the bottom of the receipt. And I think now I've seen is it goes up from anywhere from 15, 20% and 30%. So
Yeah, I mean, that's. I mean, it's tough for me to say. You know, YouTube is a tipping community. You know, right? So you know, we have super chats, we have the cash apps that are in the description, we have sometimes PayPal's that are associated with our accounts. So we also benefit from people's generosity. You know, and I think that I can't be against it. I do believe that the phenomenon of places that are not really service providers giving tips has drastically increased. You know, the places that participate in these things are a lot higher to me. And from what I see, it's like you guys said, like it's like you're giving something for almost nothing, you know? And I don't know, man. You know, my understanding of tipping, and you guys can correct me. My understanding of tipping was that tipping actually stemmed from either slavery or it was a post-slavery sort of gesture. Essentially, what it was is that people would come into the establishments and they would feel bad about the back end workers, the people who are doing indentured servitude at the specific facility. I mean, specific restaurant or establishment. And what they would do is, as an opportunity for them to reduce their guilt, they would shoot the people. They would give the people a little bit of extra money, right, over and above their regular meal. They would say, hey, just because I feel a little bit guilty about you not being able to enjoy life at this level, let me give you something that's kind of a good faith gesture, but it's more so to really make me feel good about where I'm at compared to where you're at. What is you guys' understanding about the the whole phenomenon of tipping? Do you guys think that tipping should be standard at all restaurants, or do you guys think that we should be pushing for restaurants to pay the staff out of the meals that we're paying for? Because if I'm paying $50 for a meal, if I'm paying $50 for a meal, what what percentage of it is going to the the back of the house? What percent is going to the front of the house? What percent is going to the actual waitress or the waiter themselves? You know, it's really interesting to me. It's almost like we're paying for the food, but then we also have to pay for our service provider as well. And why is it not included as one? You know, what do you think, Tim? Do you think that we should we should be keeping this tipping system, or should we be just paying a flat amount for whatever our meal is, and then they're responsible for paying the people that they're supposed to pay?
that's a very layered question. I think the key thing is one, we should know how their tipping system work. you should be able to go on their website first to understand how that system works, because not every company that takes in tips is not distributed to the actual server equally. So I think that's the first thing. I think the next thing is maybe they should do something where they create a company like a pay app, like a cash app or something like that, where you can send the money directly to that individual, and it's not through the individual through their personal, but it's through the company. That way you know that the money is going to that individual. I don't think it necessarily should be regulated per se, because I think that takes away the whole concept of tipping. I just think that it has to have some instructions and guidance on it. And it needs to be a little bit more transparent to the person that's paying the tip. I think that's really the key. And then let them decide how they want to, tip, or how they want to help the establishment. But I think the difference is when they just force something on you and don't allow you the option or the understanding. I think that's where it gets blurred the lines a lot.
I like that. He said he wants to break down. He wants to break down on how the money's going to be distributed. That's not a horrible idea, man. You know, have you ever been in the service industry? Have you ever worked in the service industry, Tim?
No, I haven't.
Okay, okay, okay. He's never done it before. All right, Perry. So, what's your thought, man? Tip or no tip? What did pills pills potions and poisons say? So y'all tipping or not? Listen, salute the pills, potions, and poisons. It's a tongue twister. Salute the pills, potions, and poison. Listen, she's from the NO. And the way I regard New Orleans is the same way I regard Vegas. Man, they see you coming from a mile away. And I remember I go to the convention center. This was like 10 years ago. Man, I remember just going there with almost my last. And you go to the vending machine at the convention center, and man, it's like $4.50 for like a 20-ounce soda. And I'm like, God, are you serious? And then you go across the street, there might be like a little convenience store. It's like similar situation that it's just half. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I wonder what her experience is with the tipping community. If she's on board with keeping this tipping culture going, or if she believes that we should establish some sort of system to get us away from it. Though, what's your take, Perry? Should we do it or should we not?
So I think I worked in the service industry. I actually think tipping's fine. I don't think it should be guided, but I more so think that you know, businesses, such as restaurants and things like that, hospitality, a business needs to be able to support the wages of the employee. At the end of the day, just like any other business, right? You have to pay employees. So I don't think it's okay to pay employees, and I don't know what it's changed to now. When I waited tables, it was $2.13 an hour. So I don't think it's okay to pay $2.13 and then just leave it up to the patrons of the restaurant to fill in the gap, and you're not regulating whether the service day got sucked or not. To me, it's got to get to a point where it's like, hey, they got to the restaurants need to start making a choice. Like, hey, it needs to be better pay, because there's a cost to serving people in general. I mean, if you're going to have a restaurant, you have to be able to serve people. That's why you do see where some of it's more self-serve, like think of Chipotle, right? Just in general, you go through and it's a different style. So it may not be the same as your, casual dining sit down, but ultimately you go through there, you get it. And the service they give you behind the line is good. And then there's not much more you need beyond that. You do everything yourself. So I'm better off with that, right? I would rather leave $1 or something for that, or $2 for that, than go into a restaurant and be expected to leave some massive amount, but the service wasn't good. So I don't have any problem paying tips, but there's expectations that it's worthy, and that you don't act like, you're doing me a favor, because you're not. I'm paying for this. I'm paying from the service that I'm getting and for the food. So you're not doing me any favor. Tipping is more of the favor, right? Especially when it's above and beyond. So that's what I think. I think that the pay needs to come up, and it should be regulated by the restaurants to make sure that the patrons are actually getting what they deserve, because that can ruin a restaurant. The food might be great, but if the service is bad, people won't come back.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But you know what? That's a fair point. If you're legitimately running the business, it should be incumbent upon the patrons to be filling in the gap. All right, so check this out. If it's about breaking it down the middle or cutting it down in thirds or whatever, why don't restaurants share the profits of the bar with their staff then? If a $40 bottle at the liquor store is $200 at a bar, like, where does the tax come from? Now, in fairness, I haven't run a restaurant, right? So what I buy as a consumer for $40 at the ABC store compared to what you actually pay for as a restaurant to the alcohol enforcement agency, right? Those might be two completely different prices. But I've also been in situations where, I promise you, I've been to one place and two times, and it was strange what happened there, right? First time doing this, right? I'm with a group of people. I can't remember what event it was. We leave one event and they tell me, they say, hey, they're like, hey, listen, let's go get a bottle. Let's go to this lounge and let's get a bottle, right? Or get a section, right? So we paid like $300. It was either $300 or $200, right? Right now, I'm a personal finance guy, but they're like, okay, see, your piece is like $33, right? I'm like, I could do $33. And I'm like, bam, right? So I passed the $33. So it's like a group of like at least 7 or 8 of us, something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So we get the bottle, and essentially what it is, it's just like a high table, and it has the bottle, and the bottle is in like a cage, right? So the bottle is like locked, because they don't want people to be hitting each other with the bottle, right? So they lock it, and then the girl comes through and she pours the little drink for each one of you, right? So then you have a situation where, I promise you, this place, I was saying to myself, when I was driving away, when I was driving away, I was saying, you know what? I feel very sober, right? And I was like, I feel almost too sober, right? And I knew I had eaten my food and everything like that. But then I said to myself, drinks. I'm saying to myself, yeah, something's going on there. So then we went a second time, and it was a similar situation where we bought a couple of drinks and we're sitting there in general, so it's interesting. So what is Pill's potions and poisons say? She says, oh no, she says, I worked at Sonic in high school for a hot second, so I'm an advocate. Man, I'd be interested to hear, did you ever have any instances where you tripped and all that food? Y'all ever see those videos where those people are on the roller skates and then they trip and then the food just goes flying, man? But yeah, I don't know. That place seems like it was a grind. We have one Sonic here, and it just seems like it's just a grind, though. But what do you guys think? Do you think that America benefits by having this tipping system? I heard Gordon Ramsay celebrate the whole idea of tips, right? He was saying, America's different than like Europe, because America, you have an opportunity to make a reasonable amount of money with tipping and everything. But if these other nations are able to survive, they're able to survive with them not having to tip, why is it necessary here, though? If it's not hurting other countries for them to have restaurants that don't require this tipping, why is it required here in America? I just don't get it. What do you guys think? If if we're not the only ones that, I mean, if we're pretty much the only ones that really push it, what does that say about us as a nation? Tim, what do you think?
Well, the first question I would ask is, so do their servers get paid normal wages? Because I think that's the key question. Because if their servers in other countries get paid normal wages, then it will make sense that that's why tips is not a staple in other countries. So for here, the whole goal was because a server takes on a lower minimum wage and they're able to make up because they got the unlimited potential to make beyond minimum wage and plus more if they provide the perfect service. So, which for me, I don't have, it's no problem with that. I just think it's just, you got to really look at the transparency. I'm gonna just mention that again. I just think it's really about the transparency of how that individual restaurant is doing their tipping, because not every restaurant or organization distributed the same, and they don't even charge it the same. Some, as soon as you come in, you automatically getting charged a gratuity. Some is based on the party. Some restaurants is built into, this service side. So you think about, for you ordering ABC on the menu, they may charge you extra. It's just because we don't have no regulation, so it allows the owner of that said restaurant or organization to do whatever they want to do to be within the standards. And I think that's the bigger problem.
Yeah, what do you think, Perry? I mean, it's not like these other countries are charging twice, three times, one and a half times what America charges for food. They charge more than likely the same. I mean, what's your take?
Yeah, I think that we, like Tim said, it we have to look at what they're actually being paid, but I think a lot of it is about what America has allowed ultimately. I mean, because think about this. We talked about those places where you can't even get by anyone to man the register. Well, that's why I go to Publix. I'm not fooling with these other places because I know what I get at Publix. I know what I get at Chick-fil-A. And a lot of these places, I will actually take a place that I would take a place that may not be as good, but it's consistent and I know what I get over something that might be a little bit better, but but there's just these crazy expectations, but the service isn't what it should be. So that's why I tend to go to the same places over and over because I know what I'm going to get. And so that's why you have your Publix. That's basically why all these places kind of become the gold standard. Because I mean, let's face it, it's gotten so easy. All you have to do good business now is literally just act like you care about the person who's literally buying the service or the product from you. So I think that's the thing. I think it's just because America has really allowed itself to get here. And I will say, I would have to assume that some of that is because the abundance in America, because these other places don't throw money around like that either. Not globally. There's money thrown around in Europe and other places for sure, but it's not, America is a very wealthy country, the wealthiest, right? So at the end of the day, I'm sure a lot of it came from abundance. And that's why, let's face it, you hear more about these things when it tightens up, right? It becomes a problem when it gets tight. I don't think anybody was really saying much about um, tipping. And I know, obviously the pandemic was going on, but, when the money was rolling and the money printer was going and everything was good, people weren't worried about the tipping. It was just whatever, I bought this, I bought that. But when it tightens up, that's when it becomes a problem. But the truth is, it's a problem anyway. It's been a problem for you to not be concerned with the service you provide for me, but then continually increase the expectations. That's a problem. And the way I fix that problem is I don't do business with you. I'll go somewhere where they act like they appreciate me, and then I will choose to go over and above. That's the way you fix it, is you have to put them in check. Like, this is not acceptable. Like, you're not just going to serve me up any crap and then the 15% is not good anymore. Now you want 30. No, you'll get, especially waiting tables. The thing is if you give bad service, this expectation to just give you 15 or 20%, that's part of the problem too. People do it anyway. You shouldn't do that. It shouldn't be done that way. You have to, because you have to earn it. That you have to earn it. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole thing, man. Like, I've benefited from tips that people have given me when I was doing birthday parties to doing appliance delivery. I've had, oh man, I'm going to tell you a story about one of the best tipped experiences I've had in just a second. Here we go. What pills, potions, and poison says: as a retail pharmacist now, great service is high on my list of priorities still, right? But look, how strange would it be, in Allen, if people started tipping you? Can you imagine having to tip your pharmacist? Like, is she gonna give you a couple of extra Viagra's? If you start tipping her, because you usually, in my experience, you don't actually see the pharmacist until after you've actually received delivery of your items. So it's not like they can hook you up or anything like that. But yeah, so that's here's a point right here that I thought was interesting right here. Let's see. They said that a broad majority of Americans say that they're being asked to tip service workers more frequently than in the past. About 7 in 10 U.S. adults say tipping is expected in more places today than it was 5 years ago. Finding that tracks with anecdotal reporting, right? But now what they're calling it is this. They're calling it tipflation. They're calling it tipflation. And they're saying it's just too much. There's no way. It becomes too much, man. I get to the point where it's like, man, damn, you too? Like, it was really a breaking point when I saw someone who was a waitress say, you know what? I'm not tipping anybody at Starbucks. I don't care what you're accustomed to doing, because you're not serving anybody. You're simply just making a drink and you're handing them the drink. There's no need for you to be sitting up there tipping them. But then we become programmed, like we were saying before. We grow accustomed. Okay, little 10%, little 15%. They have like a tip jar, so then everybody's putting money in there, or you might see some money in there, and then you say to yourself, "Damn, hold up now, I'm not tipping." So you see stuff like that, and then you start saying to yourself, "It's like, yeah, maybe I'm abnormal. Maybe something's wrong with me, right?" And Perry said that service is important, right? Definitely is. I mean, we just can't be giving it up to everybody. Salute the lead attorney. Listen, so the lead attorney, I'd be curious to hear how much you usually tip your guys at Fogo. So Fogo de Chao is his spot, and he's all about his meals at Fogo. What does N. say? I deserve a tip for the mess I put up with. Yeah, but I mean, is there something in your contract that says that you're not allowed to accept tips? Maybe because you do that consultation at the end. You be like, "Hey, baby, here you go." You shoot you a little 20, just so next time you can hook them up with a little bit more of that Viagra. Get that man going. What is Ann Allen pills, potions, and poisons called it. She called it. The guys call it the weekend pill, right? So they say that the old guys come over there and they get the blue pill from her, and they call the pills the weekend pill, right? But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that we're only focusing on it right now because it's something that is, like Perry saying, like now we're struggling, right? So now we're complaining about the little 20%. When before, during the pandemic, it was like, man, 20%, here you go. I got a couple of extra checks. Or you see people who were flexing, and now the government putting some constraints on them, saying, hey, listen, we know you were doing this hustle. There's a lot of people who've been doing stuff throughout the years, and I'm seeing a lot of fraud charges coming out. Maybe we don't have it like we had it before, and maybe we got to start having a conversation about how we're going to put ourselves in position, though. What do you think is? Do you think that tipping will move people to cook more food at home? In you guys' opinion, what do y'all think?
No,
You don't think so?
no. I just think because people still going, their habits not going to change. They just going to cut back where they can cut back. So it goes back to why we even having the conversation. Um, if they had extra money, we wouldn't even be talking about the whole tipping thing. It's because now the money is getting tight, so now they want to find the easiest thing to cut back on, and then it's basically just to complain about the tip.
Yeah, I mean it's wild. It's wild.
Because if they had the money and things weren't tight, they would be paying the tip. Matter of fact, matter of fact, they probably been getting 30%. They just didn't know it. But now,
Mm.
because things are getting tight, they're gonna penny pinch everything, and they're gonna start there. Which the easier thing to do would be to just cook at home, but they're not gonna do that because the habits ain't changed.
Look at this right here. What Lee said: if you can't afford to tip 30%, man, he's out here flexing. If you can't afford to tip 30%, then you can't afford to eat out. Damn. How many people are not going out to eat if their baseline is 30%? Like it's wild. Perry, what you say?
I actually agree with that in nature as far as like if I can't afford 130, if I can't afford 130, I'm not going to go to a place where I'm going to drop 100. My problem is though, I'm not going to give you 30 if you give me 5% worth of service. That's my I'm not just give it to you. Like, that's my thing is you're not going to talk to me anyway and act like you're doing me a favor and then me drop 30%. I'm not going to do it. I will literally give you there's been times I've tipped double before, but it was earned, right? That's the key for me is it's just that you earn it though. But my thing about lead though for me is no, I don't think people should go out and necessarily pay that much, but that's just the way I treat my own money. I'm not going to go out to a restaurant where I can't afford to tip, right? People do that actually because, I waited tables. So people literally go and they can't afford to tip. So they don't. So I've literally had a $400 bill, that someone's run up. I'm at the restaurant waiting tables. This is years ago. And then they just leave, you service them very well. And they basically leave like $5 and some change. So, so I do think there needs to be some basic level of, hey, if I go out to eat, I need to be able to afford to tip to those who provide me good service.
Yeah, man. It's wild. So yeah, so and Alan's asking lead if he's a big tipper. I mean, 30% is real. It's real bread. I mean, that's real money right there. Um, what does he say? He says, I just got back from Fogo 5 minutes ago, and I tip around 25%. I give the hostess 100 every now and then because she's always sits me at my favorite tables, right? So I'm not gonna lie, y'all. When I was younger, I knew the power of like $1. And it was really good because I guess it's borderline manipulative, because you have a way of potentially winning people over with you just lowering the barrier or lowering the defenses, right? By shooting them a 20, like bam, bam. But at the same time, I remember there's been situations where, man, I've had money and I just acting like a complete ass, man. Like I remember I went to Foot Locker one time and I walk in there and I say, I want that shoe, and that shoe. And so I made people feel like they owed me something, So there's something to be said about like the way that you treat people. And if you have a little bit of extra money, how you end up treating people as a result of that, in the restaurant, I agree with you, Perry. Like, why am I gonna go over above and beyond? Even Dave Ramsey, our guy, right? Or my
Mhm.
former guy, he has a whole thing where you tip the check, right? So people have like once they get to a place where they've paid off all their debt, right? They
Right.
want to hope to be able to tip the waitress however much their check is. So if their check is $175, then they'll tip the person $175. So I like that, to be able to work up to that, because it doesn't mean that you just have like this shrewd mentality with money and you have this Scrooge mentality overall. Like that, the idea of being generous and giving people stuff, just for the purpose of making their day, is just like a great gesture for real, right?
Mhm.
What does Uncle Stu say? He says if you can't tip, he says if you can't tip, then you do go out to eat. Period. Right? Hold on. It's like if you can't tip, then you do
Probably
go
saying
out
he's
to eat.
probably saying don't go out to eat. Period.
Oh, don't. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that's exactly it. I tip Starbucks. Yeah, I mean, Starbucks, man. Listen. I don't. I don't even really have it like that for real. To be buying fancy coffee, my stuff is regular for real. But I mean, I do Starbucks every now and then. But
Well, no, and I actually respect that, but I'll say like going through the window, right? If I'm getting a $5 coffee drink, no, I'm not giving them $2. I'm not going to do it because I mean the truth is now I might be led to do that based on a certain interaction, but in general, I'm just saying like every day throwing them like at that point, right? Throwing them 40% on it. I'm not going to do that every single day, just because over time. Now, some people don't think that way, but I do start to think, okay, if I'm going to a place like that 5 days a week, I'm literally, what could I have done with that $10? What could I really done with all of it, right? Over and over. But I don't think everybody does that. But I literally found a way to make premium coffee at the crib, right? And at work. So that's it's not really an issue, but it's just something I think about. I do think you have to be cognizant of just getting out of the thing that acting like everyone deserves it. That's my thing. Everyone does not deserve a tip. That's
Right.
the key for me. You got to earn it. I'm not just going to give it to you, because then I'm letting you continue with bad service, right? And then it's like you're being rewarded for bad service, and the service will just keep getting worse and worse. And that's what's happened to us, right? The reason why they've got us in stores checking out our own stuff, doing the work for them, is because we let them do it. If we stop going there, people will start showing back up to check you out. You know, they'll start hiring people to do that again.
yeah, I agree
Yeah,
with you, man. Go ahead. Go
I,
ahead.
I think that answer your previous question, Sim. That's the reason why in America we need to keep tips, and is not going to go away. It's because when we just feel as though we supposed to do it as a kind gesture, but we're not doing it based on what makes sense. Um, because sometimes it's not about just the tip, because it's more to that. It's more to the experience. It's more to, if you go to a restaurant, do that restaurant make you a priority because you become a regular? So, but just because you go somewhere and they smile and whatever, that's not always deserving of a tip, because you still got to think about the effort you had to put in to make that money, and then the effort you had to put in to make that money. How willing are you just going to throw it out? See, and I think that goes back to Perry's point of, because in America we always had this expectation, and this is what the companies have done. They realize that people just do it just because. So that's why they take advantage of, well, we just gonna build it in. We gonna do these things that people's not aware of, and then they still making money because they know the American people just gonna be doing it anyway, because it's just a good gesture. But you pay, it's almost like you paying for something. It's almost like you go to the gas station, you pay for the gas, but they don't have no pumps. But
Yeah.
just because you went to the gas station, you still feel as though you got to pay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also just in terms of let's look at let's think about this, right? Look at America's money issue as it is. We know most people do not have $1,000 in savings. Yet you're just throwing away 2, 5, 10. Like you can't even afford to. That's the thing. Most people can't really afford to tip like that. So that's a problem in itself. But you know what? Because it's America, we just expect it. So you're paying 24% on your credit card and you're throwing away 2 here, 3 here, 10 here. It just doesn't necessarily add up. And what I do agree, Lee did mention, about the $2.13 an hour. Man, I used to, when I waited tables, I made that. And that's another reason why for me, I planned to go to college anyway, but that's damn sure a reason I went to college because I just can't see leaning on what someone like my livelihood is based on what someone wants to give me. Hell no. That don't work for me. That's like we were talking over the stream. To all those people who hustle culture works, not for me. Above and beyond, that's cool, but I like knowing what's coming on that check. I personally do. So this just running around for what I might be able to get based on what someone wants to give me, ain't no way in hell that won't work for me. I just don't know. You can't plan great. Now I think there's some places like Vegas. There's some high end places in New York. There's some places where they're making bank, right? And that's a different thing. You got high end, but outside of that, man, it just seems like a hustle to me, man. I mean, think about it. Lee just said 213. I was waiting tables 20 years ago and it was 213. If that ain't a hustle, it ain't changed at all. But inflation is high as hell. That's the thing. And I don't even the percentage of what tips are now hasn't really made up for that difference over those 20 years. Not honestly. So it's a hustle, man. The restaurants might be the ones doing the hustling.
Lee, you might be going out because you don't have a 5'3" woman at the house to cook for you, man. Maybe if you had that, Lee, you wouldn't even have to worry about being so committed to the hostess and the waitress. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But salute to Fogo though, man. I don't eat animal meat now, so I can't even benefit from no Brazilian steakhouse, man. But look, what's Lee say? He says, I disagree with the whole if you can't afford the tip, stay home. If I can afford the food, I will go out, right? And if you're unhappy with $2.13 per hour plus tips, a waiter, talk to your employer, right? And it's one of those situations where at some point the money, like I think that the whole idea of just being transparent, I don't know if everyone would be required to be transparent. I know they're making money somewhere because a lot of them are pushing to have the restaurants real fast. Even the food trucks, a lot of times, charge the same amount of money as a restaurant, and they don't offer you the same level of service, right? So I just think that it's just an interesting phenomenon in general. And I mean, we could find every reason in the world to take issue with it, but a lot of it has to do with the fact now we have the opportunity to pay attention to it. Now, since people are in dire straits and they don't have as many options as far as places that money's coming from, now they're saying, hey, let's consider how much we're giving away and eating out, and at the end of the day, it's a service, and if you appreciate the service, you should definitely tip. I've definitely benefited from it. What Ann Allen say about the guy shooting her a couple of dollars for them pills? She says, these men try to slide me a few dollars just because on the strength, right? Man, if Ann Allen was behind the counter and I knew every week I was going to be there, I'd make like little investments. Be like, look, like what you like to do when you're not here? Like tell me what's your favorite thing, right?
Sowing a seed.
and then when you come back, you have a little gift for her. It might not be like a dollar for dollar item, but you might be, I know you said you like to go to Starbucks, enjoy one drink on me. Before you know it, she's popping a couple of extra in there for him, hooking them up. When they start the sweet talk, right? Exactly. That's exactly it right there. Yeah, come here, sweetness. Let me talk to you, And you shake your hand, you got that folded up bill in the hand. But I got you though, man. I don't know. I don't know if I can say that in dating, I found myself wanting to like win a woman over by showing her how much money I could spend. I think it's like a losing battle. Tim, what do you say about that? Like, have you ever met someone that you have you ever met a girl who was your server and then y'all ended up dating after that?
No.
I'm trying to think.
I,
I can't. The stories that I
I
have, I can't
I'm
tell. But
very, because normally I frequent the same places over and over as far as eating go. So it's just like, for me, it's just like the gym. I would never date someone that because if it don't work out, and I'm pretty much not gonna go to that restaurant no more. Because if I come in there with somebody else, or they feel a certain type of way, your food or your service may be affected. So that's just me though.
yeah. In the chat, have you guys ever used your tip as a way of winning over like the waitress? Like where you give her a big tip and then you put your phone number in like a little note. You tear off a piece of the receipt and then you write your phone number and you say, call me. I think I've done that. Now that I think about it, I have done that. And I don't know. I'm trying to think if it ever benefited me. I guess not really. I mean, because they look at you as a sucker. You just a sucker for the hour at that moment, for real. What does Anna Allen say? Right? She says, "What about Waffle House?" Listen, I went to Waffle House 2 weeks ago. I had to go to. I went to the first Waffle House. Man, horrible service. But I went to another Waffle House that was closer to the house, and they also had bad service. So I just think it's the mentality. People late at night, they're like, "Yo, we'll
That's
just take
all
whatever."
Waffle Houses.
Yeah, I was saying
Waffle.
Waffle
Man,
House a lot.
I hate to say it.
Normally,
I absolutely hate Waffle House.
yeah,
I mean,
down here
it's a
it's
staple, right?
literally everywhere. But I think also you don't you don't necessarily even expect the service to be, because especially if it's late night, it's like it is what it is, right? Especially when I used to go in college, it was like you in there after midnight anyway. It just is what it is. You just glad to get your plate when it comes and not see no fight, But
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
it's crazy.
Listen, I went to the first one and it was like a homecoming for one of the schools here. So I knew there were a lot of people there from homecoming. So I said, forget it. Let me drive another 30 minutes. Drove another 30 minutes. I pull up and there were already a couple of people waiting to sit down. So and the tables weren't being cleaned like a regular Waffle House. So then I go to the guy walks up beside me and I think that he's getting ready to go ahead and get his order taken, but he's actually getting ready to pay. So then the cashier's like, "Oh, do you want to go ahead and come up here?" Because he's about to pay. I was like, "Damn!" I felt like an idiot. I was like, "Damn!" Here I am trying to rush, and this guy's trying to leave. So anyway, this lady goes ahead and takes my order. I thought I was gonna go ahead and sit. I told her I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna eat. So she went ahead, waited until I paid my money, right? So she forced me to go ahead and pay, right? She took my order, she made me go ahead and pay. And then after I paid my money, then I went ahead, she gave me my food to go. So I was like, damn. That was a situation where I tipped before I got the service just for GP. And then I ended up having to take my food to go. I couldn't even get no syrup. They barely gave me any butter. So I'm in the car eating my food like I'm supposed to be eating inside the spot. But then I'm like, man, forget it. Whatever, yo. It was late. I was just trying to get something in my stomach. So that's
But
Waffle House right there every day.
but you know what, man? What I've noticed though, when I go to my favorite spots, especially if it is higher end, I like a couple different places like Aria. You got a place, Two Urban Licks, Stony River. A couple places I like. It tends to like the higher end places. Well, the service is on point, so it's like I don't mind a tip. I go above and beyond because I get what I'm looking for, and it makes the whole experience off the chain. So that's the thing is, I think when you do eat at higher end places, you tend to get more out of them. And for that reason, man, it's like you don't mind the tip. The tip is worth it. It's when you start to go into a place and it's like there's just this expectation, but you don't really get the service that you should get. at the end of the day. And I just don't feel like a lot of restaurants do a good enough job of making sure. It's just like, hey, regardless of what the waiter makes, I'm going to put it all on them to give good service. And if they don't, whatever. The food was good. We did our part, but it's not. It's the whole experience. So the restaurants really got to do a better job of making sure that you get that whole experience, which is the reason why I will go to these higher end places and I always enjoy them and have, good memories there.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about like excellent service. I've even given tips to people who just who were prompt, gave us our food fast. I went out to eat with my family a couple weeks ago. I was getting ready to get ready for the mastermind, and so I'm trying to eat the food fast uh, because I wanted to go ahead and get on the call. And I get the food, and one of my siblings wanted some cheesecake, and I had already paid, right? So they wanted some cheesecake, and I'm saying, look, you don't need to be eating no cheesecake. So they go ahead and bring me the bill, right? So bring me the bill, and she's still asking for the cheesecake. So then the waitress sneaks and grabs some cheesecake and gives it to my sibling, but didn't ask for anything extra. But she did it just because I went ahead and tipped her well, and it was a really easy experience, probably 15, 20 minutes in and out. And it wasn't really difficult for her to earn her money, and she had no problem giving away some food as a result of it too, But yeah, let's see what the chat is saying, right? So they're saying that Lead was right uh, about his statement with the waitresses not making no money. Yeah, they really don't make no money at all, and I hope it's still not $2.13.
Yeah, I think it is. I had looked, but I think I think some states have something in place where like I don't know how it works, but maybe if you don't make that, then maybe if you don't make that, then maybe it comes out to like a minimum or 7 something. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that. I was just looking it up, and it looks like it's something like that. But in general, it is still 213. Without tips, it's 213 an hour.
I drove to Jersey in July for the very first time, and it's exactly like Alan's talking about the guys who were pumping the gas, and it's the same situation with them. It's like there's an expectation for you to shoot them a couple of dollars too.
And you're not
So
allowed to pump your gas there, right?
not in Jersey, nah.
Yeah,
In Jersey, I don't know if New York, but Jersey doesn't allow you to pump your own gas. And surprisingly, Perry, it's the same price as North Carolina, so
Oh,
it was
okay.
pretty cheap. It wasn't that expensive, but I expected it Northeast to be a little higher.
Right.
But or the people that what do you say, the people that bag groceries. Actually, now that I think about it, Publix doesn't accept no tips over here. Is that the same in Georgia?
Yeah, I don't accept no tips or anything like that.
Yeah. So Publix doesn't accept no tips. And I'm trying to think, does Chick-fil-A accept tips?
No, they don't.
Dang,
No.
okay. That's
And
something to be
business,
said right
and
there.
look, and business is booming. You know what I'm saying? But it's because they really make you feel like they appreciate you. They appreciate you doing business with them, and that's the difference. And the thing here, man, we were talking about earlier. It's like Walmart, man. I've been all over Atlanta, man. Ain't no such thing as let me run into the store real quick at Walmart. No, you're not. There's going to be it doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m. It could be 10 p.m. It could be 10 a.m. It could be 6 a.m. There's a line. There's 2 registers backed up, and then 14, self-checkout register, and then like 14 with nobody at it. You're not going to go in and go out quick. That's why I don't have time for that.
How
You might
fast
be
do you
able to
think?
find one and get lucky every once in a while, but there may be an hour here and there during the day, but man, it's hard to try to just drop in real quick and grab something.
The fastest I've been able to go in and out of Walmart is 20 minutes. That's the fastest. That's me grabbing one item.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. They're packed, man.
Yeah,
they are, man.
And Alan, come on, let's go ahead and go on a hike so we can so I can go ahead and feed you this trail mix, this granola. What does Lee say? He says he he spends a lot on the restaurants, right? I went to Capitol Grill last night. It was $300, and eating in Buckhead, right, is expensive.
Yeah, Buckhead ain't cheap.
What? And Alan, look what Lee says. He says, "I do need a woman that cooks, but women are expensive too." Listen, Lee, listen. Me and Tim are saying the same thing, bro. Listen, Perry has it made. He's like on a payment plan, you know. He's got that long. He's got that that long term. He's got, what do they call it when you have a relationship mortgage? You know,
Right.
they call it a marriage. But yeah, it's a whole thing, right? Hey, Lee, do you know that N. Allen will not allow her man to cook for her? She will not allow it. That's the type of 5'3" that I need in my life right there, man. She will not allow her man. She doesn't feel right unless she's in the kitchen, yo. And Allen, we need your cousins. I mean, you know, you got some cousins on the East Coast. Hook a brother up. Lead needs a version of N. Allen. I need a version of N. Allen. I'm sure Tim met you. He probably needs a version of N. Allen too over there in RV. I mean, not RVA, in VA. Sam definitely ain't tricking off. And listen, not at all. Not at all. Listen, you're getting some trail mix out of me. We're going to spend some quality time together. I'm going to break you down out there in the trail. You know, the most I'm going to give you is maybe a foot massage, you know, or maybe a hand massage while we're out there in the trail. That's about all I got for you. You know, I'm going to pack all the snacks that we're going to eat while we're on the trail. So that might cost me like $100 by itself. You know, the bananas, the papayas,
Right.
avocados. I might do some watermelon while we out there. You know, I have like a big cooler. So then we come and every time we do one of the sites, we come back down and we eat. I have it all figured out. Trail mix in between, you know,
Right.
all of it. We can do it. It's about $100 right there.
Right.
Get on the program, and Alan. All right, what does he say? He said Kim at Fogo. Oh, look at it. Look at it. Kim at Fogo is a baddie, 5'3", 117, and a neck tat. He said he got a thing for the neck tats, right? She's too young for your boy.
He say
She can get it.
Lee loves net tattoos and nose rings.
Nose ring.
Remember the Reebok girl? Or the
the Foot Locker girl. The Foot Locker girl.
Finish line, yeah.
Or
was it Foot Locker?
It was Foot Locker. Listen, I got you, Lee. You say she's too young, man. Just let her get a couple of years, 2 years, and then you stumble into her outside of Fogo, man. You might be able to change your mind for real. But yeah, so I forgot what she's responding to right there. Look at that. And Alan said, yeah, she probably needs some guidance. That's what DW said. He said, you smell like you need some guidance. That's what he said to her. Straight player move right there. But yeah, man. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about, man. It's wild. I mean, we're being pressed out here for real. We are being pressed. They're saying about 5 times a week, someone's asking for a tip, you know. And the best bet, if you don't want a tip, probably stay in the house. Don't go nowhere, you know. That's the best way to avoid it. He says, Lee, come to VA. We got real food places, black and #1 service from the best black-owned places. No paid parking, no waiting 2 hours to get in. Yeah, man. I mean, I heard Atlanta. Is this true, Perry? That Atlanta's like a club at a lot of these restaurants. You have to wait in line.
Yeah, there are those places, but there's so many of them. I mean, there's places you don't, but yeah, there's definitely some spots you're gonna have to wait in line. But it's not that bad because like I've been to LA where it's really on that level, and the parking will cost you. And Atlanta has parking, but it ain't really crazy. Like LA, you might drop 20 or 30 or 40 every time. It's stupid. It's just hard to get used to. So, but yeah, there's definitely some places like a club. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yo, I was in LA 3 months ago, and we went to the Grove, which is a shopping mall, and over there at Cheesecake Factory, they had a long line, but I beat them out of that long line, went to the high tables, man. And listen, if you're not above going to Cheesecake Factory, you can go to the high tables, the service by the bar.
Oh, that's my key about everywhere, man. I head straight to the high tables. I mean, if me and my wife go out and it's like sit down, really chill, I mean, well, matter of fact, we still do it. But like if we got the kids or something, we're not going to do that. But in general, yeah, we'll just hit the high tables up.
High tables is a place. He said she needs English lessons, man. Listen, Oh, so she might speak Portuguese. Maybe that's why he hasn't scooped her up. He doesn't want to make that investment, Lee. Come on, man. She could teach you the Portuguese. You can teach her a little bit of English. Equal value exchange, man. Come on. I know Lee's already plotting on her, man. Trying to figure it out. Trying to figure it out. Yeah. It says my boys at Fogo have been there for over 15 years, and that's how much they're getting paid today. Wow.
Yeah.
15 years, 213.
Oh, like I said, man, back in no joke, literally 20 years ago from today, I was working at O'Charlie's, and it was 213.
Dang, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Come on. I mean, like, how do you even live off that? I think that puts you too much into like survival mode. Like Chick-fil-A, for them to really have like this motto of my pleasure, and they don't have no qualms about it. They're being paid a reasonable wage. One of my friends, he was being paid $7-8 an hour way back when he was like 14 years old. So he wasn't even having to worry about.
But back then, man, I remember saying, man, if I can just get to where I make $400 a week, I'm gonna be balling. I remember thinking that, man. It's crazy to think back now. 400 won't even 400 ain't really gonna do nothing nowadays.
Yeah, not at all. Lee says last week he offered two servers at Fogo 100 each. They both declined. Really? They said that it wasn't even worth it because they would have to split it.
Share.
Wow.
Everybody gets a piece of the pie, man. That's crazy.
Wow. So you can't even shoot them to change. You're almost better off. You're almost better off just shooting them just for cash and then just sliding it in the handshake or something like that. Listen, that's what I said. He's making those long-term payments, man.
But then when they do that, they putting their job at risk.
I mean, how much are they putting at risk? I guess maybe if you're like super obvious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you still putting your job at risk. It don't matter if you being obvious or not. You putting your job at risk.
But
because a good gesture could end up being a bad gesture because somebody can come back and just honestly just trying to mention, hey, did you get the tip or whatever? And everybody's looking like, what tip? You didn't mention you got a tip.
Yeah.
Now we go look at the tape. Now the person is gone, so it's not really worth it.
So It's an integrity thing now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Perry Lee's saying you got it made, man. I mean,
yeah, man, no, I do. But you know what? I adapt well too. Like, for example, tonight, my wife was going to fix spaghetti. So I got home first. So I knew, because I asked her earlier what we're having. I got home. I got a text. I was hitting the door. Now, I like making spaghetti, actually. That's probably my favorite dish to make. So I didn't even look at the text, man. I started making it. Dropped the noodles. Looked at the text. Already knew it was going to say, hey, can you start the spaghetti? I was like, already started. Because I knew, man. I knew. So I adapt, man. I adapt to some of it. But no, I got it. I do got it good. Like I was telling y'all, I think I was telling y'all last week, man. That's why that whole Cheesecake Factory thing threw me for a loop, man. My second date, my wife was like, hey, you paid last time. Let me take you out. You know what I'm saying? So it's just it's a nice gesture, man. Because that's the thing, is like, all these high expectations early dating, and I'm like, nah, you got to set back and kind of hold back and see what they willing to do, and then you open up the, you know what I'm saying, then you open up the you give them the keys to the castle. It's like you're supposed to get the keys on the first date. That's, the game has changed for sure. I can say that.
Come on, yeah, you gotta have some tact. They said that Perry over here spitting game. He's sitting up here putting us on.
Yeah, the game's changed.
And Alan, yeah, I see you. You said that you developed an analogy. What's going on? Listen, and Alan, I get it. I felt like I developed like a pineapple allergy. But you know what's strange is, I heard that. Have you guys heard about this? But they said that there's a tick out there that will make you allergic to like meat. So you might have been bit by something that's causing you to have that peanut allergy, right? The last thing you need is in Alan's cousins. Listen, for real. Let's see. What does Lee say? He says, does Alan? Oh, yeah, this is a good one. And Alan, like, are your feet massageable? That's the question that Lead is asking. Does N. Allen have nice feet though? Right? Don't promise foot massages if you if you're gonna regret them later on. Listen, mess around and end up with cut up hands. I know a woman, guys. This is a little bit off subject, but I know a woman that the bottom of her feet is like the back of your elbow. It's like this. Listen, right here where the bone is at. That's what the bottom of her feet are like.
Stop the cap.
Listen, and I'm not gonna lie. She asked me to massage her feet, and I said, "What am I massaging? Your bone?" And I talk about this day. I've never met a person whose feet feel like bricks, but that's how her feet feel.
Hey, you got to hit it with that O'Keefe's, man.
Listen,
little
man.
bottle, man. You got to polish some things up, man.
That's exactly how they are. And then she's got the nerve to be going and getting his feet done. I know those Asian people talk a whole bunch of trash about her ball, the ball of her feet being nothing but bone, man. But whatever, right? And Alan, show us those feet. Let's see what they look like.
WD-40 on.
Man, I don't know. Listen, Tim. When I tell you, you hear that? That's what the bottom of her feet feel like, man. It's like your elbow. That's all it is. There's no cushion there.
Oh man, worn the pad off, man.
Listen, no pad. And I'm saying to myself, she had the nerve to tell me the other day. She was saying, "Oh, I don't like those shoes because they don't feel good on my feet." And I said, "Man, I don't know how you feel good at all wearing anything if you're walking on bones the whole time."
Yeah,
but, yeah, man. And Alan, what do those feet look like? Do you have long toes? Are your toes like fingers, or do you have like the short, stubby toes? Let us know. Let us know. She's 5'3", man. I've seen women who have feet that are bigger than mine, and that's a scary thought for me too, right there. And Alan, are your feet big? There's nothing like a short woman with big feet, man. That's a scary thought too.
Like can palm the basketball.
Listen, I've dated a woman who actually had hands bigger than me too, and she also had bigger feet. But yeah. But listen though, she was a baddie. She was a baddie, right? That restaurant was a fucking club, right? For real, man. And the parking was $20, and I couldn't even hear the waitress because the music was blasting. Listen, that's what I hear. I hear like when Keith Lee, did y'all hear about Keith Lee coming down there?
Yeah.
And commenting about the bad business that y'all had in the A, man. Listen, had Candy Burris over here explaining herself about her business and why they didn't offer her family a good experience.
Yeah, he wasn't wrong, man. He wasn't wrong. You could find some bad service here. Now you can find great service with everyday business, right? But the restaurant industry, that's why I say I stick to kind of the same spots where I know what I'm going to get, because you can get some really bad service, man.
I don't know, man, but it's wild. It's wild. But yeah, he was talking about you, Tim, the league. But yeah, man, Perry does have a good situation, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Listen, his wife doesn't mind staying on code, like Lead said. She will not be talking to men, being overly friendly. She was willing to pay the second time, and she's willing to work, and she's not giving him a whole bunch of mess behind that dynamic that they have. I mean, how much more can the man ask for, man? I mean,
hey, but that's why I definitely agree with TLA on the fact that he talks about it often, how people will say, people be married 20 years and talk about how it's not worth it, this and that. And I agree with them, because I agree. It's like, man, you're going to have ups and downs, right? But you're 20 years, if you have 20 years and let's just say 15 overall was great, you might have had 5 years that was rough, right? At the end of the day, would you look back at a job that paid you extremely well? Even, people will do a job for 10 years that they hate and get paid and then walk away with less animosity, man. So I agree with him. I don't think it's all or nothing, man. That's something I agree with him on, and stuff like that. But like I was telling y'all, you got to do your you got to do your reconnaissance, right? You can't just, you got to know what you're signing up for. And that's
Man, you make it sound so easy, man. Listen, Tim, look at him. He's sitting up
yo.
there talking about you just gotta scope her out, man.
Now, all I'm saying, I'm not saying there's a formula. I can't even begin to say that. But what I do know is when I'm at the store and I'm about to purchase something, most people just go and grab it. You know what I do? I don't care where I'm at. I get on Amazon. I check the review on every single thing I buy on Amazon, even if I'm not getting it on Amazon. And all I'm saying is I do my due diligence. You got to do the same thing in relationships. I'm not saying it's a perfect formula, but you got to at least do the minimum. You got to
Man,
do.
Lee sits up here and criticizes everybody online, talking about you didn't vet her well. You didn't do a good enough job vetting her. At some point, man, you just have to take a calculated risk. And you just happen to take a calculated risk with someone that came well recommended and seemed to have some discipline about her.
But
So you're on the benefiting side of that situation.
But check this out. It's funny. You know, you said calculated risk. I do think there is that, but I guarantee you, if lead attorney, I guarantee you, lead attorney could give you 5 things that all the people he's seen go through divorce. He could tell you 5 things that were consistent that probably had been problems to begin with that people ignored. And all I'm saying is if you talk to someone like that, or you'll start to see like, okay, let me at least take those 5 things from someone who has seen it and stay away from those. But we don't do that. We're just like, oh, it's whatever. It'll get better. And it will not get better. The best you ever get of someone is the interview. It never goes up. It only goes downhill. So that's what I'm saying is people got to do the minimum. But I'm not going to make it seem like it's easy out here. I know it's the dating world is crazy. I mean, I live in Atlanta. I definitely know the dating world is crazy.
Tim, what you say about Perry, man? His 3 steps to success.
Hey, you boiling it down to luck, Tim? You gonna say it's just luck?
I say it's a calculated risk.
It is like anything else, but you do some due diligence also.
I think it's like anything else. It's you know, you got to go through enough where you'll find a good one. It's numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. I think that family dynamics. How much would you say, Perry, family dynamics played into?
Oh, now
Like,
family dynamics is a big part. But so let me ask you this: the cheesecake chick, right? Cheesecake Factory.
yeah.
Would you be okay with that?
With her saying that?
Yeah.
Nah, we turn around.
Hey, I cut her off straight. I'm not talking to you ever again. I'm not the shenanigans. That's what I'm saying. But see, some people won't. They're so desperate. They would make it seem like that's okay. Me, nope, over right away. To me, especially when I got to the age that I was at when I met my wife, it's like you're really just looking for those signs just to be like, it was just one of those things. It's different. It's like, hey, let's provide reasons right now to walk away. Every reason in the book. And if we don't at that point, we're good and we'll build from here. But family dynamic, no doubt that plays a big difference. Because for real, my in-laws, they live here in Georgia now, but they could come stay here for a month. Wouldn't make me no difference. They could stay here. We get along great. They've traveled even with my mom before. My mom could stay here. It is what it is. So that does help. I like my in-laws. My wife likes, my mom and my family. So family dynamic is a big piece. And then also, we've never had any disagreements about money. So I'm sure that helps anyway. We just don't, because, a lot of people's money is one of the bigger issues. That's not been an issue. So I'm fortunate there too. So that makes a difference.
So Lead says that disagreeableness is actually one of the key metrics that you look for.
Oh,
so
really?
He says that if she has a disagreeable, maybe Tim could attest to something different. But one of the things that I picked up from Lead is that if she has a disagreeable spirit, it's a high likelihood that she's going to be disagreeable about everything going into the future. And then you're just wasting your time. It's like the person that you're going to get in the beginning is the most well-behaved version of any person, right? It's only going to get worse. In my opinion, disagreeability is definitely a key metric. And if I have never seen her upset and I don't know how much she becomes enraged when she's upset, I can't really call myself actually like having an idea of who she is, because I need to see what her mental state is like whenever she's upset, enraged by something that I've done or something that maybe her family members have done. So I think that you have to see them. And one thing I also appreciate about lead is that you should definitely take out the time to get to know someone, at least something along the lines of like 2 years before you actually make the leap into being married. So that's a
Yeah.
good point. What do you?
Disagreeableness is I agree with that. My wife is gonna roll with it. She's the type like, hey, let's go eat. What you want, whatever. And she really feels that way. She's gonna, for the most part, she's cool with whatever. So that stuff like that does make a difference. But I'm easygoing too on a lot of stuff. So I think it's just about different person. But we're personality wise, we're the opposite though. We're complete opposites. So I think that helps too. So it's not boring at least.
Tim, is Ann Allen 4'11"? She says she's 5'3" in real life.
Yeah, she about 5 feet.
5 feet. She says she's 5'2". You 5'2", Ann Allen?
That's
Oh,
what
okay.
some heels on. Well, she got them 1.5 inch Nikes on.
Come on. Listen, I used to have some 4'11" women in my world back in the day. It was a headache. A headache. But in that little body, there's a lot going on. So shout out to that. I'm here for it. Uh, uh, what's Money Bad say? Yeah. Listen. He said, uh, is the topic about tipping our wives? I mean, don't we tip our wives anyway? Perry, don't you tip your wife? You give her little little propositions along the way. You might
um,
keep her
do I?
keep her encouraged.
Yeah, I do. I buy little nice things here and
Just
there. Do a
because,
little
right?
nice, yeah, little nice just because. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm here for it. Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. Money Bass. Perry's over here flexing on us, man, telling us about all the perks over there in
Now
the Perry residence.
I'm a simple man. I am fortunate though. I ain't even gonna lie. I am. But like Tim says, you go through it, right? You go through it, and then eventually you're like, okay, well, here's what didn't work. Here's where I need to reevaluate myself, and then you reach a point where you're like, okay, this is what won't work. This is what will work, and you hope to land in the right place.
Oh, check this out. Check this out. So this is what I hear, right? This is not a practice that I'm aware of, right? But in Africa, right? So you have to pay a dowry, right? So we're still
Mm-hmm.
doing that till today, right? So so my brother has to pay. It's called lobola, right?
Uh huh.
So you pay. Let's say the daughter is let's say the daughter is well accomplished, she's college educated, whatever, right? You have to pay more for her than you would just some woman who works, like a service job or something like that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
then the way the negotiations go is you as the potential groom, you cannot negotiate directly with the father. So you have to have like an intermediary, like the uncle or something like that, right?
Uh huh.
So in certain scenarios, if the woman that you end up marrying is not a suitable wife and she's not prepared like she's supposed to be prepared, you can bring her back to the family and say, hey, listen, when you gave her to me, y'all were telling me that she was prepared and she was ready to follow a suitable man, but that's not what I've been dealing with here. I've been dealing with a whole bunch of mess. So then what's supposed to happen is now they're supposed to refund you on part of your money, Well, really, normally you do like goats or cows or something like that in exchange for someone as just as a gesture of like your suitability and your ability to provide. But what do you guys think about that? About you being able to return the sender, man, and say, hey, listen, um, she's not prepared like she was like y'all told me she was prepared. She came up a little bit short. What you think about that, Tim? I mean, Perry could probably speak to it, but what you think about something like that?
Yeah, I think my bad. I thought you were asking Tim. Yeah, I think that's funny. It's like, so basically they can just take them back,
Yeah.
return
What you
to
think?
sender.
What you think about that, Tim?
That's
What
crazy.
if you could return some of those ladies back that you had the bad experiences with?
Well, that kind of goes under arranged marriages, I think. Um, I mean, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't really have a yay or nay to that. It's kind of like,
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. But yeah, we're getting ready to go ahead and wrap up.
Hey, let me
What's
give you
Go ahead. Go ahead.
let
Go
me
ahead. Go
drop
ahead.
this on you real quick
Go
because
ahead. Go
I
ahead. Go
want to
ahead.
give it. I want to give an example. This is my line of thinking. This could be
Uh huh.
completely wrong, but the way I think about it, right? Megan Good, right? Because I'm
Mm,
giving an example everybody knows. Megan Good was with Devon Franklin, right? Now, I'm not 100% sure about the ending of that or whatever, but from what we know, Devon Franklin, pretty good dude, right?
yeah.
But all of a sudden, she was married. Once at the end, she's out. Now she's with Johnny Majors. If I'm with Johnny Majors and we're talking about if he was looking at her for marriage, to me, that's a nope. It's a no. It's a no. Because to me, from the outside looking in, you already approved to me that. I mean, because it looked like Devon Franklin was, it's all about her. He was doing what he needed to do. Now we don't know every detail, but what I see from Johnny Major's side would be like, you'll do the same thing. I'm not going to waste my time. That's just how I think. Maybe that's not right. But when I see certain patterns or characteristics, why would I all of a sudden think that now you'll get married again and you're not going to go do the same thing? That's just how I think. It's like, and I would want someone to think the same thing about me. And that's with anything. If you meet someone and they're gambling all the time, oh, you think when you get married it's going to stop? I'm just saying, people, at least there's no formula, but at least you use the clues that you have in front of you. And we don't even do that. That's why I think there's so much nonsense with divorce. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't happen anyway, but people you need to at least do their due diligence. Like, Tim wouldn't sign up. Like, if Tim knew, here's a good example. Tim, would you sign up to be business partners with Umar Johnson?
my first question would be, where's the school?
Thank you. And that's my
No.
point. Based on what we've already seen from him. And people at least have to do that. That's all I'm saying. Is you got to at least do the minimal due diligence. That's kind of how I think. And that's how I started thinking when it came to dating. So, because I didn't want to waste my time. You know what I'm saying? So,
in,
by no
in,
means I have no formula. Like I said, I always say I have no formula. And it could be luck, but there was a hell of a lot of questions asked that I know people are not asking nowadays.
but in fairness, though, they said that her situation was where the parishioners were like putting a whole bunch of pressure on her. She was never good enough. She was never respectable enough, and it was always like them criticizing her. So I mean, at a certain point, you're gonna say, you know what, these people are not happy. They're not gonna be happy until I'm all the way gone. So
That's
I
fair.
mean,
But you know what? She wasn't good enough before they got married. And she knew that. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. It was not like all of a sudden they got married and she wasn't good enough. That's what I'm talking about. Those types of things. I guarantee you she wasn't good enough before they got married. She
yeah.
went ahead and hopped in. And that's how at some point you build up and no longer you can deal with it. I'm just saying, you really got to do due diligence, but you got to treat it like a business deal, right? When you go and get an investment property, get an inspect. You got to look at that thing head to toe is all I'm saying.
Man, he said take her for a once over, huh? I got
Yeah,
you, man.
right.
What's money bag say? He says, yeah. He says, she fix your eggs and grits in the morning, man. You should tip her, yeah, right? You should tip her. Look at money bags out here turning up, talking about tip her pancakes. Yeah, man. But yeah. So I mean, and Alan, we need more women like you who don't allow men. Do you still, and Alan, do you still allow? Do you still disallow men from cooking for you? Are you out here back in these dating streets? Where you at these days? Let us know. We know you have the nut allergy, but what is it? What is it exactly that's going on over there in the sit? Right?
She said she didn't. I don't know what part it was that she didn't agree with, but like I said, I really don't want this to be taken as some strict thing. All I'm saying is to me, there's basic hints. For example, if you want a man to provide for you, right now, and you saw his resume and you saw like gaps in employment, like literally don't marry him. It's a lot of this stuff is really this simple. No different than like when you go to get a job and they see gaps in your resume, they're not going to hire you. Why would you marry a man you want to provide for you and he's got gaps in his resume? And I know it's not that simple, but I'm saying there's a lot of baseline stuff people don't look at, and they get married and it's like, we talk about the divorce rate, but it's like, because these two knuckleheads should have never been married. They didn't do the minimal due diligence is all I'm saying. I do not believe there's a formula, but I believe you can rid yourself of a lot of hardships by just simply taking the basic, taking the basic steps. And when you talk throughout the course of getting to know each other, and then there starts to be a lot of missing pieces, right? Credit score 400? Nope, not going to do it. You just have to rule out stuff. But I would expect the same from them. Like, I don't expect a woman to want to be with me and my credit score is 450. I just don't expect her to. She shouldn't be. That's the way I look at it. It's the same way. Because to me, if you're 35 years old and your credit score is 400, 450, too many mistakes have been made. You've not caught on. That to me is a sign of something you shouldn't sign up for. So whether it sounds harsh or not, it's the same way that I would review buying a rental property. Like I said, you don't just hop on Facebook and go buy it. You got to inspect it, look at it, make sure that the deed is clean and all that. And you should do the same thing when it comes to relationships.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, man. So that concludes our conversation, Perry. So, any closing thoughts on the tipflation epidemic that we have right now? Right? What's your take on it, man?
Yeah, man. I think. Look, I think in general the system is set up right now where we go out, we tip, and I think nothing's wrong with that. But I don't think you should be persuaded to tip some crazy amount when the service isn't warranted. And even when it is warranted, I don't think you should be forced or let someone force you into. I don't think you let someone force you into paying 22% when you think that, 15% is the just amount. So I think it's got to be that. But I think things have gotten out of control. At some point, it's got to get back to reality. When they flip the kiosk around and it's starting at 22 and then 25% and 30% is your option, that's wild. And I'll just touch on this real quick since I saw Wally Verse pop up. He said, what if they don't use credit cards, though? Yeah, see, I think stuff like that, I don't think, like I say, there's not a one size fits all. But I just think you have to look at where you're trying to get to. And I just knew financially where I was trying to go. You don't want to sign up for some baggage is all I'm saying. You have to think those things out. There's definitely no one size fits all. But at the end of the day, you may not use credit cards, but you may have, and we talked about this last week, $300,000 worth of student loan debt. You got to process. You have to process.
Lee, we need like a relationship money.
That type of stuff probably gives people a lot of insight.
Yeah, Tim, what do you think, man? How could people prepare themselves for this tipflation epidemic that we're dealing with today? And what Wally's talking about right here, what if we didn't use credit cards? Like, how would that change the way that things work out? Would people tip the same amount if they weren't using credit cards?
Absolutely, because psychologically, when you use cash, it hits different. That's still a true statement. Dave Ramsey made a big deal about that, but it is true. Because when you use cash, it is it's almost like you're bonded with the money. So because you're bonded with the money, when you giving it out faster than it's coming back in, the bond is very one-sided. But I would say I don't think it's nothing wrong with tips. I think tips is great. I just think that no one should feel like they're obligated to give a tip or should feel bad if they don't. And I think you should do tips based on what you, the individual, feel is right. It's not for anybody to tell you what that should be. And the only reason why I say that is because that's making the assumption that all services is the same. That's making the assumption that your experience was a great experience. And ultimately, I just believe that you're the one that worked hard for the money. So it's up to you on how you want to spend that money. But I will say this, if you're going to go out and be given tips, then first thing you need to first make sure that you got your financial house in order. So that's kind of some of the things I would share with individuals. As it relates to tips, I don't think it's bad. I just think it's more of you should be have a good understanding on why you're paying it, and you should have understanding on if it's built inside of the check. So that's all
Yeah,
I
for
have.
real, for real. And Lee said, he says, I returned my ex-wife, but I didn't get a refund, man. But you know what they say, Lee? You can't put a price on peace of mind, right? So that really concludes our conversation. And you know, tips are part of American culture, and I don't think we'll ever get away from it. I think that it's a great incentive in the beginning. I think that it creates like a codependency overall, where you're running away from having to pay taxes on a certain amount of the money, and then it keeps you like down. It's like a ceiling, because now the amount of money that you're not claiming keeps you from being able to be qualified for opportunities for you to invest, for opportunities for you to have housing. Now you get caught up in this perpetual cycle where you're trying to run away from accountability while at the same time making as much money as possible, and also becoming potentially codependent on the possibility of getting that money. I appreciate everyone that came through and had the conversation with us. I think it was a fruitful conversation. You know, tipping is a part of tipping is a part of the process, and what we have to do is we have to put ourselves in position to have the shmoney, like Tam here, tip these Linux classes seriously. We got to have the bread to be able to tip the classes. Women in Linux is a great place, as Tam is stating, great place for you to learn how to get the high-tech skills, how to get paid the competitive salaries, how to put yourself in real position out here. I'm committed to the process that she has out here for us getting to $300,000 a year minimum to be able to have conversations about being an accredited investor, putting yourself in position for you to go nothing but up. Check out Women in Linux. It's a great channel. They have great information about investing and the strategies that you end up having to employ once you take on these larger salaries, where you start having an issue of whether you pay Uncle Sam or putting yourself in position for going into the future. Beyond that, I appreciate y'all for coming through. It's been a great conversation. Until next time, peace.